torch, how to shut it down properly, okay? First thing I'm going to talk about is to change the cylinder. What you'll need right here, if the cylinder happens to be showing empty on the pressure gauge, what you'll need to do is go to the Montezuma box. Follow me with just your camera. And this Montezuma box is right there. You'll need an inch, and an 1/8 end wrench. Fits perfectly. When you're done, if you put that back there. If I were to change out the acetylene cylinder, I know that it's left-handed because of the notches on the side of the fitting right here. Now that tells me it's left-handed. So if it's left-handed, I would go to the right to loosen it, okay? On the oxygen, it's to the left to loosen it. On right hand, it's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. On left-handed threads, it's just the opposite, okay? Notice, if I were changing this out, I would not unchain it. I would simply take off the regulator. Follow me over here. I would get a cap. There'll probably be a dark one, okay? A dark cap, and make sure that you screw it onto the top before you take the chains apart. All right? And then it's simply put the new one in, chain it down, take off the cap, put the regulator on. All right? Questions on that? All right? Striker. Sometimes these strikers work, sometimes they don't work very, very well. If the flint on the striker, if the flint is worn out, you can tell me, and here's how you change the flint. It just screws on and off, just like that. Okay? That end screws off, just like that. And I can screw it back on. All right? Boom, just like that. It works better if I use my striker by pressing down on something so I can get a spark. Okay? So that's the striker. I want to start the torch using a flint striker and not a match or not a lighter, like a big lighter. Okay? To start the torch properly, I first make sure the thumb screws are loose, here and here. Make sure when no one is standing directly in front of that regulator. And when I crack this open, I'm going to see the working gauge move up to the proper, or to its pressure, wherever that might be at. This gauge moved up, this one here didn't move at all. Since this valve here is double seated, I will take that all the way up and seal it open. There it is, sealed open. The acetylene, when I crack it, I'll take it 1/2 turn. Okay? We always say 1/4 to 1/2. Okay, and I went at least 1/2. This pressure for heating, for this tip right here, I have an app for you to tell you where this should be setting if you happen to be cutting or if you happen to be welding. Just take my word for it right now. It needs to be at about 10 or less. We'll set it up at about 10 PSI. Or maybe I'll set it up to 20. Here's 20 PSI. So I've got pressure there. And I'm going to set my acetylene to 5 or less. If I happen to overshoot it, I just simply back it off, drain it out. Say I've overshot my acetylene. I crack the acetylene open, shut it back off, and I can adjust it up to wherever I want. The two lenses that I need to be using with oxyacetylene are going to be located here, here, maybe back there hanging up, or maybe back over there hanging up. These lenses are a number 6 lens. Remember, the lenses are rated 1 to 19, with 19 being the darkest. We weld with about a number 10. We use oxyacetylene, we use about a number 6. Okay? I'm going to start the torch. By doing that, everything is adjusted, everything is off right now. To do that, I'm going to, for this heating tip, that's a little bit different if I'm going to use the cutting tip. But my oxygen is off. I crack the acetylene with striker in hand. I want to adjust it to where most of the smoke is gone, and then adjust it easily with the oxygen cylinder or the oxygen valve. On the torch, let's take this and hang it back up. On the torch, I've got 3 flames. That is a neutral flame right there. I can tell because I've got that secondary cone sucked up into the primary cone. So that would be a carburizing flame. This happens to be a neutral flame. And if I have too much oxygen, that's called an oxidizing flame. Most all of your welding is done with a neutral flame. That flame that runs about 6,000 degrees, 6,200 degrees. Really blue, so you can tell it's pretty hot. To shut it off, okay, I've done my heating, I've done whatever I need to do, I'm ready to shut it off. I always like to shut off the fuel gas first. What that's going to do is it's going to pop, sometimes. And when the oxygen is shut off second, it purges the system. When both of these valves are shut off, I'm going to shut off my fuel gas first, all the way off. Shut off my oxygen first, or second. Now I've still got pressure in the system. So therefore, what I'm going to do is release this pressure here from this valve right here. Once I do that, the cylinder pressure will go to 0, then the working pressure will go to 0. If you want to, and you can zoom in on that a little bit, I don't know. Working pressure went to 0. Cylinder pressure went to 0. Working pressure went to 0. I loosen up the thumb screw. Don't screw that all the way out. Just get it out where it's loose. Shut the valve on the torch head. It's on the torch head itself. I'm going to do the same thing on oxygen. Watch the working pressure go to nothing, while the cylinder valve go to nothing, while the working pressure stays somewhat the same. Once that's down, I will loosen the thumb screw, shut my valve off, and I'm ready to hang it up. Now let's say I've checked this, I put on a new cylinder. Here's how you check for leaks. Rather than using soap suds, which would be bad, I can, because it would be bad simply because of the oil base on the soap. Okay, let's say I'm here just like this. Here's how I can check it. I'm going to go ahead and shut this off. And if I have a leak, I come back 5 or 10 minutes later and this cylinder pressure is down, that means I do have a leak somewhere. I need to probably tighten this up just a little bit. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. That goes to nothing. Loosen up. Tighten down right here. Hang it back up. And it's done and ready to be put away. Any questions at all? Okay? Bang.